Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming. This is covering Season 49, 5 vs. 5 Grand Arena Championship, Week 2. As usual, I am privileged to be joined here by my co-hosts Dagger TJ and Sasha Isha. It's minutes after, it's less than 15 minutes after the close of Week 2, so it's all fresh on our minds. I'm glad we're all able to make it here and talk about it. How's everybody doing? How y'all doing?
Doing well. Doing well.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah, let me hit the...
Me,
let me
and I'm
hit the
doing
right
well.
There we go. Okay, now everybody's audio should be optimized.
I'm alright.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
alright. Thanks for having me too, though. Appreciate it. I didn't want to feel like
I
not
said
getting to put
Dagger,
my nose
TJ,
in
and
there.
Sasha Isha, and I said, how are you guys? Like, what do you think?
Still a little hurt. I wasn't included, so it's alright. It's fine. Whatever.
But-
Everyone's
but-
gonna stop, but I don't.
Am
I'm
I
just kidding,
am I
Tash.
cracked out here,
Tash,
guys?
you're
Did I
giving up
not
the
say
time.
Dagger,
Watch.
TJ, and Sasha Isha, and then
Right.
how are you guys?
Dagger.
I don't know who Dagger's defending, but whatever the defense was, it broke up.
Stand by it.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's like your
right.
parents?
TJ's like, I
So
will die
roaring
by what
start
he
to our
just
quality
said.
content, gentlemen.
It's not as rowdy as the pregame yet.
Yeah. All right. So, let's get right into it, guys. It's been an interesting week. I mean, I only had one legitimate round, but there was a lot of learning this week. Just between Sasha's stream here, and then we had some really good information gained by other content creators. So, I mean, it was a very active week. But let's dig right into it. So, what worked? I guess when I'm having an easier week like this, I'll go first, and we'll go from there. But my one round with Sasha, what worked? He set. So everybody's setting. If you set like a normal Lord Vader composition, I don't know that.
I just want to give you a quick correction.
It's
It was
Aesop.
Sasha, but you Aesop.
Oh,
I just want to put
Aesop.
that out
Yeah.
there.
Thank you for correcting the slip of the tongue. So I have one legitimate match this week versus Aesop, and he's trying to cut off you just squashing his Lord Vader team with Bo-Katan. He set EP, Mara Jade, Lord Vader, Thrawn, and Malik. So there's a huge threat of TM just running around hog wild on you is Bo-Katan. And so I went in with Slacker First Order, just standard. Everybody lived. Nobody had full prot, 60 banners. JMK was once again reliable against his Inquisitors once again was successful against his improved JMK comp. JMK Gas, C3PO, Cat, and Fives. 62 banners. This week, I got my chance to avenge myself on his Leia. I used Jabba, Chrysanthemum, Bausch, Scando, Embo, 65. And were there any other interesting ones here? I saw how he used DTMG versus my Qui-Gon. It worked the same for me, 64. Full CLS, I don't know if this is interest to you guys, but full CLS, I had the turn meter level 6, not even damage reduction. And I just avoided using Han's Third altogether, obviously, with that in mind. And against Saw, Chirrut, Drogon, Kara, and Kyle, full C3, full CLS team, 64 banners. And then another really interesting lesson was, last time I fought him against his Finn, I tried Night Sisters. It crashed and burned with a Kron that had high health steal and like 90+% offense or defense on it. And this time I took one that had about 100% defense, so ever so slightly more, but like 50% health and like about 25% protection. And that got the job done, whereas this same team failed against him in week 1. 63 banners. The rest of it we'll save for the next segment. But yeah, Dagger, you want to step into this one next? What worked well for you? You're usually pretty clean.
Sure. So I tried a couple of. So I put up my first 2 rounds. I put up like damn near 1850s.
Jeez.
Right. So just coasted through without a whole lot of issues. My opponent set reasonable defenses, but I saved, ridiculous offense, if you will. Right. So the only one that really boiled down to was week 3, or round 3. So during the Sasha stream, he tried a couple of things that I then immediately tried myself. Both were incredibly successful for great banners. Dash versus Qui-Gon, and then DTMG versus Traya.
Now that was Dash Vandor L3, Young Lando, and who?
I had L3 on defense, so I used Zalbar. So it was Nest, it was Dash, Nest,
Nest was
Zalbar,
nice,
Vandor, and Young Lando. And my Young Lando's in like a speed set pilot mod deal. Whereas
Still went
he's not
kapow.
like kitted out. Huh?
Still went kapow.
Well, by kapow, do you mean like I killed Anakin and Qui-Gon with like 2.5 minutes left to hit auto and one with like 45 seconds left?
No, I'm just saying in a speed set, he still did his job in terms of delivering damage.
Well, that I feel like if I had more damage, I might have ended the fight faster. So I might remod him.
Okay.
But to Sasha's point, like there's definitely a timeout risk because this was only like 120% defense. It was nothing like prohibitive. If this was more, there was a GK there, right? So if there was more defense, this could have been a problem.
I see it. Well, don't eat too much more off Sasha's plate. Let him talk about his own stuff while he gets there.
Yeah.
But was there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, because I just like Steve. Like again, I apologize to you, Ramdog. I made some jokes about your defense. But yeah, I fought a bunch of people who set, we'll call them lighter defenses than I would feel comfortable setting, and I ran them all over.
All right. Well, fair enough. Let's move to TJ. What worked for you this week, man?
So for me, it wasn't bad. I will say round 2 and 3. So I fought Surgical Precision again as my round 2. Had him last week as well. He tried a strategy, which he's allowed to try. You're allowed to do this. It's similar to what Ramdog did to Sasha. So I'm going to call it like this, right? And I know we'll joke about it, and it can at times. I've seen Tass do this. You can completely call it cheese the board, right? Try to show like you're fronting something up front. You're taking a gamble and doing it. Mm-hmm. Surgical tried something different, and it was a gamble, and it didn't pay off, and that's okay, right? And it's like, I'm not mad at you for trying to cheese me. You just tried something, and it wasn't going to work this time.
It's a legitimate tactic. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Because the people who complain about
smack.
cheesers are the people that lose to cheesers, and it's
we will 100% talk smack.
Exactly.
And Surgical, who wrote me in game during threes, talked about how he got cheesy and he hates that, and then tried it on me. And I'm like, I'm not mad at you for trying it. You're trying something. It's fun to try stuff because if it pays off, huge risk, huge reward, right? And it's just like setting too many GLs. It's huge risk, huge reward.
Yeah.
So in that light, everything that worked, what I had a lot of fun with this week was the Seer on Ray. My round 1 appointment, which is our guildmate, the Jane account, was showing to do a lot of Seer. So I was like, you know what? I've been setting Seer, been doing it. I haven't got to use it while the cron is active, so I'm going to have fun and try this out. Mm-hmm. It went great, and then we'll get to what didn't work, which is going to fall in line with Sasha, which I did make the comment, Sasha, when you're going about the commentary, and I don't think you heard me about it because you went in and yours went worse than mine. But for the what worked, Seer on the Ray comps outside of Cal in the lineup, man, so much fun. Dagger was there for one of them,
right.
And we were trying it. I'd never really done it, but it's really very easy, and it's a whole hell of a lot of fun, man. I think, Dagger, would you agree when you watched it? Wasn't it cool? They literally just like fading away, dude. And it's like, how many are you going to kill this round?
Man, you're really
3
sticking the knife in Sasha over here, considering how it went for him.
No. My round 3.
Yeah, we're saying no non-Cal, but yeah, it was Lawler skates watching Calicos's first AoE didn't kill anybody. The second AoE killed like 3 people. Then Ben came back and the AoE was like, I guess you're all dead again.
Yeah, bye. But no, we're going to talk about what didn't work. So with Sasha, I was talking about where Seer did not work. And then what I used to clean it up, but we'll talk about that one. The other things that worked and were okay, it was because it was so, I'm going to say like this, because it was so cheesy, a lot of the things that I did want to do worked well. They were banner pinching teams that I was able to overcommit. Like I was able to four-man Gidme a Tusken team. So I didn't need a 5th character. I four-manned it for a 66. It was a lot of banner pinchings, 3-man GL teams. Nothing else really stands out besides the Seer of anything that was going to be really useful. Everything else that I needed to do was really doing the job.
Okay. All right. Any others you wanted to highlight?
For the what worked?
Yeah, for what
I
worked.
will say there were some fun ships there was some fun ship comps going in for 74s and 75s. Trying to 4-man the Nego to get more points out, because like for surgical myself, there was literally a 3 banner split of who won, because I'll talk about what didn't work, which is dumb. And there's a whole bunch of dumbs in there, which I'm fine with.
Sure.
But yeah, that's the only other thing, was just trying to really stretch my points because I had to, because of the week that it was.
No, I take your point, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I did Negotiator versus Malevolence this week, I'm just in the habit of bringing Plo and Ahsoka, and it was only Vulture on the bench. Maybe you feel less secure about it if there was yet another reinforcement after that.
No.
But I went in with just Plo, and I did save the banner. Like there was absolutely no need. I felt no call to have Ahsoka for that situation.
If I'm going to say there's 2 things with it, right? And what it won't tell you. That is absolutely correct. You only need the 4, and we're talking standard comp. You don't even need Marauder. It's just take 5. You take 5.
Right. 5's Y-wing and Ahsoka with Plo on reinforcement.
How you play the fight is different than what people would try to do. There's a couple different steps, but then it all falls in line the same way it does, and it comes out pretty cleanly to 74, 75, pretty much on the regular.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's very true. All right. Sasha, yeah, all right. Hopefully there's something left for you to talk about from these two. But what worked for you this week?
Well, a couple I'll just, I don't want to rehash, but maybe just bring a little bit of a different perspective, or dive a bit deeper on some of the things we already touched on too, which is like, Dagger mentioned the Dash versus Qui-Gon. The Qui-Gon JK Cam with Keller and Beck and a 5th, I think it's particularly challenging if it's like a GK, like was mentioned. I love that comp that Dagger mentioned. So that's one that I use into high banners, and it feels very, very under control. And it's one of the best uses I've been able to find for like a personal favorite character of mine, the young Lando, because he can put Vandor under stealth. The thing that I would add is the importance of Nest as a 5th, because if you've got those 2 tanks in there and that opposing team, that if that Qui-Gon team, which you now have to take Qui-Gon out multiple times to be able to get anybody else off the board, if it's high survivability, you can get stuck behind tanks, and I have come close to timing out against really high relic ones, and that's why I love Nest as the 5th. Nest, has the ability to target anybody out there, can ignore taunt, and ramps nicely with all the buffs that those Qui-Gon teams have. So that was just one aspect, just saying, make sure you've got Nest as the 5th, and if there are 2 tanks, and move quickly, because timeout is a surprising risk there. Because you normally think of Qui-Gon Jinn as like the whole battle's resolved in 30 seconds, but it can last. So what did work, kind of similar theme, but a couple other data points, is just DTMC, the new Gideon on offense, is so much fun. And I think it's at least, a good portion dependent on the really impactful crons. I've got a great one there for the troopers, high defense and then converts defense to offense. So I took out, a CLS with Drogon. I took out, I think one, just out of curiosity, I just did it on Tuskens, and it just steamrolls because it hits so hard. The Tuskens just go poof. And then in the stream that I did against Randog, which was just a ton of fun, I wanted to try. I thought he set a very clever front bottom wall Savage, Talon, Traya squad that. As I looked through .gg before going in, and there's really limited non-GL options, at least that I had available. I mean, you could potentially go Traya versus like a Traya lead against it, or a Maul lead with Traya. I didn't have my Traya, and I had a limited amount of GL options, so I took DTMT there. That worked nicely. Again, I do think that was probably dependent on a solid Trooper Cron, because Savage, Ramdog had a well-modded but R6 Savage, and it still took a while and sort of the right combination of attacks to be able to get rid of Savage. Nihilus, on the other hand, was one shot the moment he was accessible. Then, let's see, I think I had one other thing that I'd call out, the Traya squads that I've been running into on defense, like I said, they can be challenging if you don't have the right counters. There was a Treya lead that I keep seeing that I thought was pretty effective, and I'd actually been using EP Star Killer there, Treya Savage squads, and that's continued to work. And because I haven't been really confident with Star Killer against Ray with the UFU stacking defense crons, that's been probably the highest and best use I've found for Star Killer. I didn't feel as comfortable with it against the Savage lead, but those were the ones I did. And then that was really, across 3 matches and kind of fun defenses, I faced Goda, Lacey Basie, and then Ramdog this week. So a lot of, creative stuff that was set up. We'll get in. I will have more content on the Ramdog match when we get into what didn't work, because my guy set some creative traps, and it's just, in fact, what I'll touch on there is, like we've mentioned, sort of the approach of, do you hold GLs, do you set GLs? There was a particular tactic that was used by Ramdog there that I thought was brilliant. Like it definitely led me to be uncertain what was behind the front wall. So we'll get into that in a bit when it comes back to my time for what didn't work. Back to you, Cass.
Sounds good, man. All right, segment 2, what didn't work? All right, again, I only had the one match, so I'll be brief. Ray Swallow Cal versus Xeris. I looked at that and I was like, man, I really do not want to do this with JMK. Like, yes, there's no tank on there to dance around, but it's like, if you're going with Scoundrel No Revive, you still pretty much want to take out Cal. Now, you'll have Visas up, so now anytime you go after anyone else but Visas, you'd be punished. I feel like I have a decent enough risk of timeout as it is with JMK, so I decided to go a different way with it. I went in with Star Killer instead, knowing that I may well have to clean it up, but what I would have to clean up would be manageable. And let's see, what did my write-up say? We killed only Visas and Xeris on the first go. After Ray's first ult, I probably should have focused on getting DI off of Cal, because then Star Killer ult may have killed him. Oh, yeah, I didn't run this with Scoundrel Crown because I checked the win rate on this with JMK. Man, obviously we didn't have the Scoundrel Cron last time, but it looked rough enough where I'm seeing high defense Crons getting taken into this and mostly winning, but only like that. So I think I ran a set 11. It was kind of disappointing. Ended up having, I ran a set 11 on JMK to clean it up is what I meant. And that will lead me into other errors because in the back, he set some diverse stuff, knowing that how I could counter the normal team. So he set a Reva lead Slacker. So it's Reva, Slacker, GI, Malicos, and Seven Sister. Among the many things you might do to it, just about anything Jedi would struggle. Nonetheless, at this point, I felt like it was my best bet to try JML there, because JML is what I had budgeted this for this anyway, and I needed to do other things elsewhere. So I went in with JML, Jedi Cal, JKR, JKL, and Hoda, and you might be thinking, but Tass, that team's full of dispels. This sounds like a bad idea. You're right. It was it was terrible. I would not do this. I would not do this again. I would take it all back. That being said, I withdrew because it was a complete blowout. Terrible. Would not recommend. Went back in with Bo-Katan because I realized, like, if I'm going to get through this is like the only thing I've got left that can. Bo-Katan, Bam, Paz, Grogu, and Armor for 33. So if it had been the first go, it would be just surviving only with BKM alive. Now I want to point out a viewer pointed out I think it was Overcast, had pointed out a really good point. Bo-Katan's Unique says that she's takes reduced damage from percent health effects. And when I used 3 stacks of Beskar, when I put 3 stacks of Beskar onto her, I was still avoiding using her third, because that's a dispel. It would trigger Deathmark from Reva, bad times. But as he pointed out, if I'm taking reduced damage and I have 3 stacks of Beskar, I want them to focus her, right? Because she won't be taking the increased damage and she's gonna backslap the crap out of everybody. So that's an interesting note. And if I had to do it all over again, I think I would play it differently. It's probably something that you could clean up for better than just one person surviving. But it was cool to point out because if you had your back up against a wall, like Jedi anything may really struggle here. But that was doable, and I was just surprised enough that it was doable. Against Darth Vader, GK, Fifth Brother, Starkiller, and Fulcrum. I was like, well, it's not the EP Mara Jade, so at least it's not the nastiest possible version. I don't see any reason why I can't try GG, B1, B2, Newt Magna. How far did that go? I got one guy. I got GG out of the way before it was insufficient. I actually think I went in with like a high armor Penkron. So I don't think I had a set 11. I would have preferred some defense and high health, but it wasn't available to me. And yeah, we got our results thusly. Went back in with Wampa against the four of them because with the unique broken off Star Killer, the magic is broken, so surely Wampa will just smack that up. Nah, it actually wasn't like that at all. So I had to go back in on a third time with just Bosk bounty hunters, and that sewed it right up. It would have been what, a 44, right? But such as it was a 34. All right, that's about it for drops for me. Dagger, over to you.
Well, the most disgusting thing I've seen recently that's kind of funny is that Stephon Diggs caught a pass on the sideline just now, and then on the Steelers sideline, and then took a drink out of one of their water bottles, which was hilarious. And I only say that to supplement my part of this, which is I lost one fight against Ewatch with CLS because I was tired, not thinking. And other than that, that's the only fight I dropped all week.
All right. Brief section from you. All right. TJ,
Yeah.
Speak on your shame. Reveal to us. Show us thy wounds.
I don't want to. And I don't want to because some of the stuff is self-inflicted.
I don't want to.
Let's go with good learning.
Mm-hmm.
The good learning, where my victories are going in, I wanted to try this out. And I actually got a video so I can go back and redo it. And Sasha will know this, so it's not to steal his thunder. But the third round guy decided to do the full nasty on having the Ray comp. So it was with Zeris, it was with GK, and it was with Cal. So all of the lineups. So I decided I'm going to try to sear this again because for this, it was an 11.6 million guy, and it was a guy with no bow. I had room. I knew I was going to be able to try this out, and I felt like I should still be successful. So it was like, it's worth seeing because of the low win rate. And I think, as Sasha will talk about, I think I know where mine was at, but my end result was cleaner than Sasha's in that I only had 3 left alive, but it ended up being Cal, which Sasha will talk about. Cal should have probably gone first, and Ben Ray. What I've talked about before on what I wanted to do, and I ended up cleaning up with just bow, and it was clean banders. I got a 45 for the full cleanup. It was easily peasily done. At that point, they're just not going to survive. Bo will wreck the hell out of that. And I knew he wasn't going to set LV, so there was no reason for me to keep Bo. Great cleanup. Did what it's supposed to do. Now in for the ones I don't want to talk about. Oh, no. I'll talk about one more. Round 1, I overcommitted on the front wall by taking my Treya, and I'll preface why I did this. Taking Treya against his Tuscans, which worked fine. It did what it was supposed to do, but that left me wanting for what was in the back. It was the Seer in the back, and as we know from last week, I have big pause on what Seer can do to me if given the right occurrence. He had set Ray, SOK, and Seer in the back on me. So what I ended up having to try was first, and this was a standard comp. There wasn't nothing crazy. It wasn't the ATF. So I started first with JML. Looked at all the numbers, everything worked right. Tried the JML on it. Was trying to play with my food is what it felt like, and Dagger was there. And then what happened is I played too much, in my opinion. We were trying to talk it out. We were going through the fight, and it was well thought out, right, to the point, until it's not. And when it's not, I think it was you, Tass, who got the experience, or somebody else. I saw one of the streamers. When it's not, it's really not. And holy hell, is your team gone. So it ended up having to be a full backup because I couldn't get anybody to the right point of where I needed them. So then I took in LV, and man, did it feel good just killing Malicos. Thank God that he died. So I got the 3-shot Seer. Seer was the monster of the week for me. Good learning because we were trying things to see where it was at. So everybody who was there got to try to learn some stuff on it. The other one that doesn't work right and where this is just RNG, the Zori, I decided what I had was going to be Adrad to try to give it a shot, and they just got hosed out. Just bad luck. Like, they locked down Adrad. There was never going to be a chance. It was never going to work. So where I thought it might have been able to do something, no, that didn't do it. For my other side, because Surgical did the cheese match on me, and I knew we were playing for points, he put Night Sisters in the back. I was so in the weeds thinking about things to do that I remember doing bounty hunters to do on Night Sisters, and it can. There is a can work, and I'll preface why I say that. It can work, it does do things, and when you're in line, it's a great 65. When it's not in line, holy shit is it bad, and it goes fast, just like it would on a Seer fight. It did not go well. Let's just put it like that. I couldn't time it correctly, so I couldn't catch her. Because what has to happen is Marin has to be out of her little stealthy thing when it's time for Mando to nuke. If you miss that window and she's not out, you're pretty much going to get your ass whooped. And that's what took place. The reason I do that and say this is I had troopers the whole time and completely skipped on them because I went through the insights. I was like, it's a bad winner win. So, made it stupid. Took the troopers. It was a 45-second fight, regardless of what they were trying to do, and it was dumb. So round 3, thankfully, my 11.6 did the same thing and put troopers right, or put Night Sisters, and my troopers beat the hell out of that. So it was fun. The other part is ships. Jane had already the Jane account already pretty much beat me. I was just going to clear out the ship. So I tried a new fleet meta that don't do this. I was trying to take Scythe as my third and the standard Chimera versus Leviathan. I did not pick Scythe. What I picked was Shuttle.
No.
Yeah. So I would have like, all right, I'm just going to try it, man. I already lost. There's nothing to work. Guess what? It doesn't work. It's so crazy that does not work. And then there's no targeting on TFP. So they get free reign to kill your team, and they're just not there anymore. It's weird.
Now there's a difference between things that you thought was going to work and you just dodoing yourself.
Oh, that's what I said. That's why I didn't want to talk about it. But it's true. I did. I really did. But I literally just woke up the next morning, was like going to do it, and I was just picking my teams real quick. And I was like, all right, let me just go ahead. And I was like, I thought I selected Scythe. I did not. I picked the different S word, which was Shuttle, and then I said the other S word, which is shit.
Yeah, the sequence of events is entirely believable.
Yeah. So it was good, man, for what it was. A lot of the poopies, which were just whatever's. Still get my 2-in-1 week this week, but the Seer one was very interesting. And then watching Sasha's, I think I come back to the same result, and I think Sasha will agree. Cal is really your menace, and then that's what we got to work on, right? But I think it's still possible to work, which is why it does have some type of win rate, even though it's lower. So that's it for me this one.
Very good. And before we go to Sasha, I just want to say, Sasha's, if you didn't see it, just last night, for week 2, round 3, I didn't stream because I got matched up with one of those Erodium guys, so it was just a real quick walkthrough for me, and Sasha was willing to stream, so we streamed his match, and if you haven't seen that, that's another video that, as of this moment, will be up tomorrow morning, January 16th. So check that out, because that was a really fun fight. All 4 of us were there. It was a great time, but I know that Sasha has a lot of lessons learned because we were all there together. And now, without further ado, please, Sasha, cut in.
Yeah, sure. That was awesome, by the way, getting a chance to do that again. So, Tess, thank you, and thank you guys for really both the support and mockery through the experience. So,
such is the way.
But yeah, exactly. So like I said, it was a good week overall. I had quite a bit of fun. I went 2-in-1 with the matches against Goda and Lacey Basey, really good competition, and I pulled wins out there, and then faced Ramdog in that final. I encourage folks to watch the stream. I think that was, or to watch the YouTube that Tess is putting up on the 16th. So the things that I learned, sort of the how not to lessons coming out of that. There are a couple particular sort of squad matchups or counter lessons that I'll dive into, and then one that was an interesting kind of this is maybe not a how not to, but it was what I thought was a very shrewd strategy on Ramdog's part in placing his defense. That I realized I read something into it that I suspect was him luring me or getting me to think a little bit differently about how to approach his bottom front wall. I'll come to that last, but that's a sort of a strategic learning. In terms of the particular matchup, Fear Malicos versus Ray Cal, TJ mentioned. So for context, I've been using Fear Malicos against Ray for the last, couple of weeks, or last week, I guess, plus. Certainly in my history, undoubtedly something that Ramdog had seen. I used it in my 2 earlier matches in the week and did it with great comfort. Like, it was just Malicos blows the opposing team off the screen. And I hadn't picked up on the fact that those squads I don't think had Cal on it. And Cal has such great survivability for UFUs. There's just a ton of benefit that he brings. And in the matchup that I had, just as TJ mentioned, it was against Ramdog. He had that same comp, which is Barris, Cal. It was, I believe, JTR on it as well with Ben. And so no tank. And I went in there feeling confident. The squad that I brought was the typical Sir Malicos, in that I had my own Cal for survivability. At Malicos, I had ATF. And I happened to bring Asajj because I wasn't planning on using my Night Sisters. I was light on I'd set my SLK in crew, so I didn't have crew as the 5th, who I think would be optimal. And I didn't bring Ninth Sister, but the reason I brought Asajj is because she can dispel buffs. And I get anxious on those Seer battles if I can't dispel crit immunity. So I had Asajj there, and the battle opened up as I would have expected. And, good survivability. I start throwing rocks. Asajj gets her first turn and pulls crit immunity off, and I'm feeling all good. But I'm accustomed to watching the squad just sort of disintegrate, the opposing squad disintegrate, Ray get beaten down into damage immunity, it just slightly delaying the inevitable. Well, Barris disappeared, I think, got one shot. But the other the UFUs that were out there seemed almost like none the worse, despite dozens of boulders being hurled at them. And it took me, it was a little dense on it or slow, in part because I think I was just so accustomed to this thing working mindlessly, that I stayed focused on Ray, trying to ensure that Inspired was coming off of her. But, meanwhile, she's lifeblooding the heck out of everybody. There's a ton of extra health that's on Cal. Cal is so thick. I don't think that, probably within a minute, the first minute of that, I'd probably had lost the battle because I had not focused down Cal early on. I needed to just blow him out of the water, take him down, stomach whatever amount of mastery ramp that was going to give GL Ray, just to ensure that Cal goes, because that squad, I don't think, at least with the Datacron that Ramdog had, which was, I think, a really good one. It was close. It was 50% offense, 80-something% health steal. So very high survivability, plus some defense, and then the ramping Ufu defense. I wasn't going to be able to take that squad out as a whole. Like I said, Barris blew up, but otherwise, I was left holding the bag and really looking pretty ugly. I had 4 out of the 5 remaining. And eventually Ray ramped, she got a whirlwind off, took out Asajj, then I didn't have enough coverage for, the next ult off of it. So that was brutal, but a really good learning. Then, some other learnings I would say kind of through cleaning that up. I used Afra ultimately after another Jabba field. The Jabba one was fascinating, probably pretty entertaining to watch because I used the boost cron, and so I had a ton of turn meter running. And in fact, I got to a point, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure his rate went into ult, my Jabba ult hit ult, ate one of his characters. My Jabba went all the way through to its ult a second time before Rey came out of her ult.
Yes.
So basically, had completely lapped, ate somebody else. And then I think the little bit of learning there, which I think most people should know, but I had lost attention to at that point, is I ate Ben right after he had just been killed. So he came back with the instant defeat immunity, and so I did ult on him, and he went nowhere, and kind of summed up my experience for that match. But so that was on Rey. A lot of interesting learnings there. The other drop that I had, the only other squad that I dropped against Ramdog on was an interesting and just kind of disappointing one. It was done primarily out of entertainment. I was inclined to take troopers against his Ewoks. They were very fast Ewoks, an effective 411 speed Paplu, 299 speed, and then you had Sherpa, and then after that, 25% speed from Paplu's unique. And I'm like, that's hard. That's generally going to be tough for troopers to get ahead of, but I happen to have a protection up level 3 Darkside Kron to let my troopers get ahead. And I'm like, oh, they could probably go okay. I had no other use for the new bow. And I'm there on stream with you guys. I'm like, hey, let's do this. This should be fun, right? I mean, I have this really jacked up bow squad. I had a nice Datacron. It was just, I wanted to strut it around town. About 2,000 Ewok attacks later, my light side Mandalorians were completely decimated. And I was able, I think, I killed few of the Ewoks once, but only one of the Ewoks twice. I think I got Wicket twice. But I'm like, I need to back out of this because my team was just completely melting away. So I had to actually quit. Otherwise, I was going to run the risk of an Ewok team with 4 out of 5 standing and turn meter loaded. So I had to back out. And man, that was a spectacle. And yeah, I'm sure some, user error was involved, but it was nonetheless, it was a pretty underwhelming.
I don't know. I mean, like your user error, I don't think you could really put any blame on yourself for that one because you didn't really start meaningfully getting choices until you were already disadvantaged.
Yeah. I never felt in control of that. That's for damn sure. Like
sure.
There were at least a couple of times in that battle where like all of us were kind of saying to each other, like, am I going to get to go? Like, is this really happening? Is it going to roll over? So yeah. And then the last thing that I was going to add is not a counter that didn't work, but I just thought this was a shrewd setup. As I reflect back, like it kind of impacted my psychology, my strategy going against it. So Ramdog had only one GL showing up front. It was that Rey comp, which is a formidable comp. But what Ramdog did was put that Rey comp on the top, not on the bottom. And on the bottom front, there were some other comps, the Savage Treya comp that I mentioned that I thought was solid, a Sphere Malicos with Beastus and Beastus Revived Kron. A few things that were going to either require really strong non-GL counters or a GL, really tempting to throw GLs at. And what I did, this is a little nuanced, but I read into the Rey up top as being like, because it's a tactic I typically like to use. I will put, if I'm only showing one GL up front, if I have a lot of heavy stuff in the back, like 3 GLs in the back, I don't mind putting my 1 GL up top because I'd like to have 4 on the bottom, maximize the amount of battles that the opponent's going to take against non-GL squads. Exactly, right? You want them to take as many battles where they have to make decisions. Like maybe that GL is not a decision. Like they're going to have to go with something in particular to get it to work. So, maximize the amount of decisions and sort of the variability for the opponent. And so I read into that. Oh, there's probably GLs in back. Like I had to preserve Jabba in case of Leia. I had to, do a few different things. That got into my head a little bit. And so just sort of calling that out as like something from my side, a presumption or a strategy reading an opponent's board layout that didn't work. Because ultimately, I opened up the back wall, and while there were solid squads back there were no GL. And so I had played the front wall, and I was fortunate on the front wall to one shot, but I took some risk that ultimately wouldn't have been necessary had I known the back wall. But I took a bunch of risky fights early on against an opponent that held 7 GLs, and I thought that was a way to do it, and it was a mistake on my part to allow that kind of assumption to influence my squad selection. So that's mine.
Very, very fair.
I will say I got to live vicariously through your Ewoks because I've had dreams of doing things to Katie Sackhoff like that.
Yeah, I will say, oh, poor Katie. Like that was
Yeah.
The turn
that
meter
was
was
a rough one.
extreme, and that's why I don't think we'll ever see her on defense. Like you can have your 365, 370 armor to be like what you think is going to be a kickoff, but it's so easy to push something into a turn meter that's going to be faster than that these days. And
don't
turn
think
meter
they
just
have
runs
reactive
roughshod over that, man.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think they have reactive TM. I think that they just have to take natural turns. So I think that they will always, just based how they currently are, I think that they will probably always struggle against turn meter teams, which is why you see like the EP lead Lord Vader team that you talked
Exactly
about.
that.
Past,
I'm
right?
so glad I did. I thought it's like he's got to be doing this to block Bo-Katan. It's like, yeah, I see the turn meter threat. That could be a problem, and I'm glad I recognized that because
Yeah.
when I saw that Ewok fight, I was like, oh man, I would have been host.
Well, there are so
Yeah.
many like half-baked measures in that new light side Mandalorian squad and its composition. Like, obviously, like the lack of a Mandalore lead for Bo is a bummer. That really nerfs Paz. But then in addition to that, like the damage immunity that Bam can give is great, but it's only triggered by scoundrels, and so like the original Bo-Katan can trigger it. Grogu, the IP-13
Even
or
worse, it's
IP-12.
only applicable to scoundrels. Only
Oh yeah,
Grogu
exactly.
can
Not
be the
only triggered, but only
recipient.
applicable. So I'm sitting there, like watching that battle, going like, I did eventually get that triggered because I think they went after Grogu early enough. But like, if they just decide to focus fire Bo down, I think she replaces somebody else, but like they were going to be able to focus fire Bo down, and I would have had nothing that I could have countered it with if their turn meter loop was perfect, which it was close.
So a special note on Bo for me, I think that, going forward, where I know that against Lord Vader specifically, you're encouraged to use old Bo-Katan and not armor. But for every other instance where you would be using armor, I think
Yeah.
I'm going to put the first 3 stack of Beskar on Bo instead of Paz. Paz is fine. He doesn't need
Yeah.
your help. He'll take it later when it's convenient, but he doesn't need you. Now, Bo-Katan
Yeah.
with 3 stacks is a completely different matter. That backslap, because things are going to hit her AoE. There's going to be you're picking the fight since you're using her on offense, so you know that something's going to hit her AoE wise, and she's going to have something to say about that.
That's a
I
great
will say
point, Cass.
one also final note on this. This week, so I know I talked about this last week. This week has made it so that I don't really feel like I miss Bo all that much. I'm not saying that because of your guys'
Yeah.
failures or whatever. It's just seeing what other people are using, seeing how people are trying to stop Bo, and I'm just like, I don't have as many things to figure out because my opponents aren't trying to stop my Bo.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying like having her would be better, obviously, but I'm saying like my gaps are simpler because I don't have her.
Yeah.
Because no one's trying to set EPMJ Lord Vader on me.
Well, and just like, I've been this guy plenty of times before. If you're not going to be having the cutting edge thing, like for that first period when it comes right out, you just get to be the beneficiary of all that intel gathering the entire time while conserving
Totally.
resources. It's
Yeah,
hard
so-
to it's hard to say you're wrong,
Yeah, so
Well,
I mean,
and-
like I've really enjoyed learning what her limits and stuff like that. Sorry, I'll digress
you're
here,
good,
but yeah,
you're
I've really enjoyed watching you guys succeed and fail.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm sorry, Sasha, you were trying to get something out there?
Yeah, I'm still looking for the success with her, but yeah, the fail is ample. And the one thing that I do feel a little bit deprived of is normally whenever there's some like hot new thing, you can throw it on defense in at least that first week. There's that, the sort of there's so much fog of war around it. It's like, I don't really know what it does. I don't know what's going to end up countering it. That you either get unexpected holds with something that's a new toy because people aren't really well calibrated to what counters it, or you get people really overkilling it more often than not.
Yeah.
And now it's like it came out and everybody's like, oh, geez, I'll just walk over it. How about Bad Batch for 65? So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'll have to pick Aesop's brain. I saw that in, I want to say it was week 1. He had a drop to a Bo-Katan team. So I didn't really look too closely at what the situation was leading up to that. So it may be that, he was just strapped for the team that he would have preferred. But I still want to pick his brain about that because surely whatever he took against it, he thought it was going to work. So I just want to hear the ins and outs of that. So I'll be sure to follow up with him about that one.
I will say the one comp that I was most intrigued with potentially setting, but I know it's still really vulnerable, is a really sped up Sabine as like a trigger on that squad, and with her going, and I feel like that squad, if you can get it out ahead of somebody, and then Nubo gets her attack, and this is where there's RNG then as to who she ends up targeting. But that would have had potential, but it's only so far ahead that you can get Sabine.
I think if you don't need specifically the prot restoration from Bo-Katan, Sabine offers, a variety of things that make her a better choice offensively. The daze, the stagger, the armor shred to stack with Bo-Katan. I can see it, and it's not hard to put her up at the right speed so that you maintain your turn order with Bam,
right.
Ahead of Bo-Katan. You just have your birds go boom. Like I can see that. I can absolutely see it, and then of course I don't know about you guys. I haven't seen anybody doing anything with proper Phoenix with Krex. Like I've seen a Phoenix on defense, but they weren't even presuming to have Krex there. So with that said, it's not like you're parting that out.
That'll take us to our next thing if you want to bring that up.
For defenses, for sure, that's just as well. Standout defenses, and I know when I was talking about what didn't work, talking about this couple cool defenses that Aesop had. So again, just to recap, I know we're usually talking about the defenses that performed well for us, but I did really want to draw attention again to that because of how meta breaking it is. The Reva lead with Slacker, GI, Maliko, Seven Sisters. So that's just like that. That isn't my defense, but man, we want to talk about a defense that stands out to me. So as far as my defenses that performed well, I only had the one real match with Aesop, but it was Ray, Swallow, RJT, Sortie, and L3 that again proved to be my only hold against him. He killed everybody but Ray on the first go and cleaned her right up for 41 on the second. But I'll miss this Kron, man, in terms of what it's doing for Ray. Ray has been possibly... it's difficult to remember in terms of comparing this to, like, set 1 Ray, but it's been brutal. And it's been, against somebody who has the offensive options that Aesop has, it's pretty impressive that, compared to everything else that one could set, Ray is still doing the only... work worth reporting out. So that's enough for me. Dagger, your standout defenses.
Well, I wanted to actually touch on the Krex thing, and I think Krex has this spot on like the Leia team right now. If you're trying to time out you're trying to time out Jabba in a traditional way to not just allow them to walk over with something else. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen people, and I know Sasha's mentioned this, and I know you have. I think you have too. But we don't usually talk about our opponent's defense, so I just want to touch on that here slightly. If you don't want to do like the old Ben lead or the something like that lead with Leia under it, right? To try and make them use something besides Jabba. Krex plus a good tank with a sticky taunt is a pretty reasonable way to time out Jabba because of the protection up and just the general obnoxiousness of the turn meter.
Absolutely.
So Phoenix right now, at least, as long as his Leia Kron, as long as Boosh is around and stuff like that, this Boosh Kron, I have a very strong feeling that Phoenix just won't be a thing for a bit, at least here. That being said, we'll go on to my defenses that worked. Jabba held, and that's why I want to bring up the Krex thing. Krex has been very good on my Jabba team for stripping banners and or timing people
team.
out.
You mean your
on my Leia team.
Yeah, gotcha.
Or when they try to Jabba it.
Yeah.
And then Seer continues to just, 86 people's dreams. I don't care that you have yes, there are answers to it, but very frequently those answers are required someplace else.
What do you think your opponent was trying to use on it? Because I feel like Gidme is not something people are really budgeting for doing this season. I heard TJ say he used it once. We're all keeping the essentials for the team for offense, but I think we all intend to use DTMG. So what do you think it was? Like, do you think the success of your seer was that, I don't know how you had it positioned. Did you have it up front? Did you have it in the back, and you were successful at drawing what you think they preferred to do against it? Like, what do you think the secret to success is? Because that's been around a little while, so somebody could make the argument that it's kind of a solved puzzle. So how did you make it unsolvable for some folks?
I don't know if it's unsolvable insofar as it is. We talk about how to make our front walls like look very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very honest with my Leia team. I put it bottom front, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then frequently, if my opponent has bow, I'll put Lord Vader up front. Just be like, use your bow here, whatever. Let's just get it over with. I'm not trying to like do that thing where I try to stop them from using it because that just seems like way too much work.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the back, I have Seer, Treya, and Slacker, and they pretty much all just ate shit on Slacker and Seer. So I think it's just the fact that my back wall just basically is in that vein where it's like, use GLs here. Oh, you don't have them? Haha.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you did have it tucked, and whether or not you were intending it, you certainly were successful in drawing what would have made that comfortable for them. So
Yeah, and then like Treya and Slacker in the back also had holds this week, but Seer is the one that held the fort, so to speak.
yeah,
And then in my
okay, I
last,
see it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then in my last round, yeah, it really boils down to like I'm trying to set one of the strongest defenses I can while setting minimal GLs kind of thing, kind of like what we've talked about before. And like I know Sasha and I have kind of like talked about how 3 feels like the minimum, at least for me, for comfortability purposes. So yeah, just been trying to experiment with what's strong on defense without trying to overcommit because I want to make sure that I can put up like an 1840 on offense. Man, I scored an 1848 round 1 and it did not feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I scored an 1835 and I thought for sure my opponent would beat it, and then he got completely space jammed on my back wall after being ahead of me after both front walls.
Nice.
Right? No, but you know what I
Take
mean.
it.
Like it's like these high. I don't know how high an 1835 is. I'm not trying to pretend like it's the highest score, right? But they don't feel safe. Anyways,
Yeah.
I digress. I'll
No,
let you guys.
I take your point. Like we talked about this in the week 1 video, in the preview video. Oh geez, what was that, little kid? Neat, made a mess there.
But yeah, basically getting holds in the back wall has won me all 3 of my rounds this week because man, people just have a lot for offense.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, very good. All right, TJ, standout defenses for you. What held the line?
It's gonna be small and similar. So no sort of surprise. My round 3 with the no bow, LV held. It's weird. And then round 2 and 3.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's just the true statement, right? He had no bow, so what does that mean? You said LV. All of a sudden, LV hold. It's just the weirdest thing. So did that. And then round 2 and 3, what also held pretty well, Malgus. Malgus was actually my moneymaker that actually probably got me the win. Round 2 and round 3, as we've talked it out with budgeting and where everything's at, my Malgus is in bottom front both times, and then this one as well. Malgus is the one that actually did the damage. It wasn't the Ray, it wasn't all the GLs or like that. Malgus, just the uninterrupted, it's got a lot of health. Malgus actually got my hold to good banners and pulled it out.
Outstanding. All right. I mean, yeah. Yeah, man, I wish Malgus was doing more for me these days, but he has his purpose.
Well,
Anyway,
the only thing I'll call out though is you have to remember both of these cheesy battles. They had 7 GLs. They only set the Ray both times, and Malgus was still the moneymaker for me, which is that I just want to keep calling that out, right? Where it's like, as Dagger calls out Seer, right? He's like, yeah, there was SLK and there's other GL, but it was the non-GL that's really killing it. It's the same thing with the Malgus. It's like you can set all these other GLs, but it's these other teams that are really going to catch you slipping.
very good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else you wanted to cover there, defense-wise?
Nah, man, with the 2 and 3 like that, and then what I don't like to do and what I had to do with the Jan account, I had to play a very honest fight. So it's just like it was what it was. I knew walking in.
Mm-hmm. All right. Very good. Thank you. Sasha, how about you? Your standout defenses. What saved your bacon?
Yeah, there were a couple that did some good work this week. One was actually just SLK traditional first order, double tank first order. On the back wall, if an opponent has used JML, I haven't seen the history yet, so maybe they didn't. They even had JML, but in 2 of my 3 matches, I set that, and each of the times I set it, it got multiple holds. And it's a good UFU datacron, not like an incredible UFU datacron, but a good one that I wanted to make sure it had both health, defense, and then the second UFU defense. And in each case, it held, and at least SLK plus crew had survived. And one of them, I think I also had, might have been Red or Fost survived. I think it was Fost survived as well. So that squad did well. I think it's got good survivability and can ramp to hit like a truck. Then the other one is a defense I picked up from the previous round, previous week rather, that Tom Ford had sent it against me. And I talked to you guys about it, but it was a pretty effective anti-Jabba Leia comp, and it was actually with Old Ben Leia, Old Ben lead, then Leia, Cassian, Chupio, and Drogon. So you start with tenacity up. It just makes it challenging on a Jabba squad. And I said it 3 times this week. Just it's so challenging to be able to find defenses that are have some fighting chance. And so I figured I'd throw that squad because it threw me for a bit of a loop when I saw it a week ago. And in 2 of my 3 matches, it got holds. Ramdog got it in a one shot. I haven't connected with Ramdog on what was used, so I'll take a look at the history there. But in 2 of the 3 matches, that held, and that's nice. I was happy to see that.
All right, good stuff. Well, guys, we're getting to the later part of the show here. Lessons, takeaways. What are we applying here for week 3? For myself, I mean, I don't know what this week brings for opponents. We'll see what the matchmaking looks like. I expect it's still a mess, so I'm really not trying to have any specific expectations. I expect otherwise I'd be disappointed. So I just have to be mindful that we're in a super efficiency meta. So my only 2 rounds this season have both been against Aesop, and I set a pretty challenging defense the first time, and I got whatever score I got. This time, I still lost, but I got a significantly higher score doing it. So what that's telling me is that I'm not playing efficient enough. And that's surprising because that's been something I've been increasingly accustomed to over the last couple of months. But the writing's right there on the wall. Now, that might not be something I have to worry about in the same way against non-Aesop people. But so long as the game decides that they want to give me 2 buys and then a match with Aesop, I pretty much have to be thinking about Aesop. So just efficiency. When set 11 dies, this efficiency meta will die with it. We don't know what set 13 brings, and it might restore some of it, but it certainly won't be the same. And I'm all for it because this feels crusty and stale. So I just have to be extra super on top of the efficiency here for the final week if I'd like to, maybe be somewhere around the 20s going into 3 versus 3. Dagger,
I don't think.
Go ahead about your takeaways and whatnot. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I don't think the efficiency thing is going to end because in order for the efficiency thing to end, you have to make defenses hold, right? And I don't think that that's a thing that's going to happen until the Africron's gone. I won't insert my rant about that. I just want to just point that out, right?
Yeah,
I
guess I'm saying we know set 11 is going to go, so a lot of the rigorous forbidding defense that has been part and parcel of life for a while now will go, and there's no reason this one won't have survivability. We literally don't know what set 13 will bring.
Oh,
but I'm hoping
I'm
hoping
saying
that will be alleviated by the death of set 11.
No,
is my point.
Sure, I'm saying that set 11 leaving is actually taking defense teams with it, not adding more teams that you can play.
It's opening up counters that have been blocked, similar to how set 9 bulk was.
Yeah, but you understand that that's not alleviating the efficiency more. That's complicating. That's making it worse. If we can
I
start,
guess,
if we can
but
start Killer Ray again, that's not helping us.
I see what you're saying, but the counters have been
Um,
so rote, for 64, 65. Even
yes,
with the
but if you
set
get 65 with
11.
Star Killer, then that. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying too. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
the cheaper efficient counters you give us for stuff that doesn't actually help the efficiency better. It just means you won't be placing Ray on defense now if Star Killer is crushing it for 65.
Yeah, and like I
Right. So
said,
now you can't.
we'll see what set 13 brings
Yeah.
because your concern is valid in absence of any knowledge about what set 13 brings. So
Sure.
we'll see.
Sure. Sure.
We'll see.
I'm simply taking you to task over the I don't want to say claim, but over the assumption that efficiency will be hurt by these defense teams leaving.
Yeah, and I see why you're saying they won't because it's weakening certain defenses. But my gut is by taking these things where it's like I know that you're only going to do this or this to counter this, taking away a whole bunch of that is going to reduce the amount of 64s and 65s I'm seeing, I think. But I get why you're saying that,
Yeah,
and we'll have to find out. We'll just have
yeah,
to
that
find
might be true. But anyway, I was going to say that was feeding into my takeaway. My takeaway is basically like looking at this last week. It's the last hurrah for things that might actually hold on defense because yeah, we don't know much about the next Cron set outside of it's going to have Mandalorians and probably uh, Imperial Remnant and likely Galactic Republic. See Color and Beck, right? So likely that's what we're going to see in the next set. Well, they already confirmed Mandalorians when they announced Bo, right? Because it said, and her data
Mhm.
crown coming soon or whatever they said. So I think so. Basically, the takeaway kind of is enjoy your UFU teams. If you haven't used your steer team and you wanna do it, I'm not saying she won't be good after this concept, but she will be demonstrably worse,
Oh, thank you for
right? So
reminding me. I didn't mention it earlier, and I got to say this dad joke before I forget it again. Regarding Sasha, the Seer versus Ray that we attempted with Callan there last night.
Mhm.
It really put the oof in Ufu.
Oh God. You're gonna edit that out, right?
Ah, no, like you. I know you guys aren't looking at the video right now, but I am big cheesing for the camera. I literally blocked out everything, and it is just a magnified me cheesing for the camera.
We now know what the
Thumbnail for this one will be. All right.
yeah.
It could be. It could be that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah. All right. All right. Sorry. You were
no,
talking about Sierra Ufu getting your use out of her while you could.
yeah. So if you haven't tried some of this stuff on offense and you were so inclined, it's interesting and fun, and they actually are powerful. So bid farewell to hopefully we don't get defense plus defense stacking next set. And again, I'll just leave the takeaway with this: enjoy what you have, and take solace in the fact that it is unlikely, not impossible, it is unlikely that there will be more defense than we currently have in the next set because of the L6.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and
So
we're always focused on what's going to be applicable here in this next week. So to your point though, like if I agree. I think I'll think on that myself. Is like if you've been having Seer, just be on your defense, even if it's been doing well. You owe it to yourself to give it a try to see what it can do. You've only got 1 week left of this Seer Ufu, so
yeah.
to Dagger's point,
So
let it swing, let it ride.
it's going to be a bittersweet week, and if you don't have Bo, remember to check what your opponents are using her against.
Very good. TJ, your lessons learned here. You're taking into week 3.
Well, I think this week was a good week, man. I think for what it's worth and where we're at, and we've all said it. There's ad nauseum. It's been said so many times, and what I hate, can't stand the efficiency that we're in and the lightness of how it feels. The more you try to buck the system, if you're not pulling what I would call a fatal, and even I know fatal struggling, and you're just setting literally everything, then your other turn is you have to put more lightness, I guess, than I would like, or at least that's my opinion on it.
I mean, you're right.
So
I raided into Fatal Stream the other day, and he was lamenting like it's You know, he
It's
he
great.
said like he respects my hustle, that I'm willing to do what it takes to win, and that's true. Like I'll play efficiency. It's not the way I want to play, but I'll do it if I have to. I'm
But you
trying to get
have
the
to if
dub
you
by
want
any
to do
means.
it right.
But he
And
was
Phil's like,
saying how
get
he
that.
feels so punished by this right now because he can't really do what he wants to do at all without putting himself at a grievous disadvantage. So
It's where I'm at right now, and I like the stream he did today. He talked about being able to set 8 GLs and still be able to come up with counters that are non-GLs. I think it's cool. I've always been a fan of the off meta. I know there's other guys. Everybody's trying to get to that point. It's just I'm not having the most fun right now because I can't go the way I want to play the game, and it is what it is. If I want to be competitive, there has to be some kind of conforming to that. So lessons learned this week is just trying to expand on what I've seen as far as things or takeaways and flips I can do to try to impact more on the defense, not for the fact that I think it's going to hold down everything, but just pull at least either more banners and or get me more like one tap holes, right? Like it's going to stop something this time, and that may be the difference maker for me to get my win.
So
week
yeah,
three, since we have 2 weeks of
ultimately,
data.
it's boiling down to you've got to just be really more focused on efficiency yourself. Which you know you lament it, but it's only one more week.
Yep.
And I'll tack on to you here and just say, I mean, we always talk about the scouting, but keep that in mind. I mean, you're going to be looking through your opponent's history and seeing it's like, okay, this is what their preferences are, because people's preference with set 11 and now here set 12. They're about as defined as they have the knowledge to make it with set 12 combined. And so you can rely that what they were doing by the end of the second week is largely representative of what you can see at the start of the third. They're going to apply their lessons as best as they can. So look at where they are successful in pulling off their 64s and 65s. See where and how they intend to be efficient and where you might put them at risk. So it's still a good point, TJ. It's good.
I'm only going to give one more, and you've called it out, and I think this week will be the biggest teller of that. I don't take it as we have 3 weeks of data. Because we've had this set 11, which would be the more primary set for everybody, we technically have really like 6 weeks or whatever, like 7 weeks of data
5 weeks.
that we get to use. So, but do you see my point? We have basically 2 5s of set 11 being the primary set for everybody. It's all things relevant minus 3 things. We really have 2 JCs to look at for data, not just one. So I think hot utils will be a bigger tool this week coming up than any other, in my opinion.
I think one of the problems that you're going to run into is if you try to weigh what happened last season to 5v5s too heavily, you're going to be looking at the Jedi Crons. And one of the problems with the Jedi Crons is that Malgus and Leia were like, anyway, they're just a completely different meta, I think, for the most part. Right?
It's just saying that set 11 was there. So you can use more intel. Normally, what I felt like we would do is it would really be cut off. Right, a set of 5s may not do what we needed to do, and this one, I think you can use actually some of the data, or at least more than you would be able to back in the day.
I think a reasonable way to parse that would be look back at their last season and see how they've evolved. For example, frequently when I run the Omega Bot, right, we'll plug the Omega Bot for tasks because he has that partnership. When I look at the Omega Bot, almost across the board, everyone who set X if you set 3 GLs last season, you're setting 2 this season. If you set 4 last season, you're setting 3 this season. Almost to a 1. All 6 of my opponents this month so far, or whatever, have set -1 GL over the last season. So it's a good way to look and see how they're evolving too. So I think it's a good way to look and see what your opponents, like what Tass said, look and see what they're trending towards, because the lessons that they learned last week especially are really going to translate into this week. So if you see something that they failed against a couple of times over the last week, they're not going to try that again probably.
Or in reverse, if they've been getting extraordinary results, 64, 65 with the same counters, you can take that to the bank. They're going to stick with what they know because the margins, the margin of victory is so slim these days.
I just feel like the data here now is more relevant than it has been in past times because of the Sullivan still being so strong and still being around. I don't disagree with Dagger on the Jedi thing is true. but like UFUs are still monster UFUs. You felt the pain of that on something that was evolved, what we've seen over time, right? That's never been shown. There's not really any data, and because of that, how strong that impact is there. I just feel like we have a really good idea now that the hotbot and these utils for that is going to give us a lot of really informed data, more than it would other times comparatively.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, Sasha, I'm so sorry we've left you in the corner there. Hopefully you
No.
haven't frozen to death. 'Cause
No.
my wife just came
No,
to
it
me
was
on the side here.
good dialogue. The only sort of, I guess, high level thing I'd add for kind of like perspective on this week. This is more general, maybe not as actionable advice, but as I think about the meta now being, fairly high scoring, high efficiency, and having a very lengthy kind of rich history that .gg can let opponents know, a half dozen different counters that could take out everything you set. It does feel like a ripe time for people to create super teams and try to make almost like one great stand on one squad. Like try to go, a little bit, it may feel off the rails, but like, combine a couple of strong defenses to create something that's just really unheard of. It may be a risk. Here's the reality: if you're taking two really strong teams, so I'll talk about this in the abstract. But like, if you were to take two really strong teams that, let's be honest, we're seeing 9 times out of 10 each of them falling to a 64 or 65 these days, you're better off just combining those two teams into something that nobody has seen before, or there's not a lengthy history on, some random data crunch, something that makes it. You're just generating some randomness and uncertainty into an otherwise like stable efficiency meta, and
That's a
that's
really sharp
advantageous.
point. That's a really sharp point because especially for somebody as like intel driven, scouting driven as I am, that's the number one way to punish me. When I go to pull your card and see, well, who else fought this? How did they fight this? And it's like 0 results found. And it's like, crap. So I agree with that. That's an excellent
that's the stuff
point.
that then
then I get questions. How would you approach this, right? Then that's when he reaches out to other people.
Yeah.
Well, like the other day on
moments,
stream, I just sweated out, and it was like that's how I got the Bo-Katan to go through Riva Slackers. It's like I don't have to ask anybody what I've got to do this because I only have like one capable team.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I do feel for you streaming in those situations. I mean, it's really rough because you're not going to do like really deep real time research on that. But like when I run into that stuff. And,
no, clearly you don't watch enough of my streams because they're not 4 hours because it's jam-packed action for the entire 4 hours, okay?
That's true.
There's a lot of intel work there that goes into the live show. But I take your point. That was an excellent point, though. Did you have anything else you wanted to throw on for the week 3 application? Okay.
Nope.
All right, well, guys, we did a good show here. I think we covered a lot of good stuff. Just, 10 or 13 minutes over an hour. Well done. We're closing up here on final thoughts. So just, anything else you think? I mean, I know we just talked about what's applicable here next week, but any other tidbits that you feel are good for the people? Dagger, you want to sound off?
You look like a bootleg Willy Wonka if he was fat and, lived in Michigan.
Okay, yeah, sure. I think that's something that everyone can grow and learn from, and I appreciate your valuable contribution to this segment. Thank you. TJ, what about you? What are your final thoughts for the good people?
I think just try to have fun with the last week. I think Dagger called out pretty fun, man. If you haven't tried the Seer versus Ray and they're setting stuff like that, go out and have fun with the Kron and some of these other things you can do. When you get to try it, man, getting to find the little joys and being able to do like the Seer versus Ray is so much fun. I can't recommend it enough. When it's working, watching everything, and I know Dagger watched and we had people there. It was like just a blast, man. So getting to do these fun comps and try these different things, because it's the last week of some of these primary stuff, just go out and play with it, man. See what it feels like for the last week, because then we obviously have the new craziness and the new Wild West when we figure out what the new set's going to be.
Very good. Yeah, enjoy the last wild ride of set 11. Very good. Sasha, Your final thoughts.
Yeah, one thing just to throw it out to folks, and hopefully this will still be relevant when this rolls out, but I am in that window of time before a new Datacron set gets announced and starts rolling out, but you know it's coming and you know the last one is going to go to dust. I highly recommend holding off on adding relics to the marginal improvement of squads and just start building a reserve of relic materials, because with each new Datacron set, something gets turbocharged, and it may be a squad that requires a fourth or fifth member on it that you need to make additional investment in, and it'll be high impact for the next few months. So I guess my point is be really judicious about spending relic materials until you get sort of line of sight to set 13 and what's coming out, because there's likely high impact that's just not visible to us yet.
Mm-hmm.
Spoken like a true person who doesn't have everything at R5.
Very true. For my part, guys,
Sorry.
No, it's okay. For final thoughts on my part, just hearing Sasha really jog something to my mind here, thinking about set 13. So, as you said earlier, we don't know anything about it yet. We don't know what's coming. When it's announced, like any new Datacron set, there will be the crons that are immediately apparent. Everybody's gunning for at least having one of this and one of that. And if you're able to get that, that's fine. That's usually what I'm trying to do too. But the following advice is as much for me as it is for you folks out there. When this new set comes, there's that dead zone where you're able to farm up whatever you can of this new set before the first week of threes. And hit it hard, go through the 100s every day. That's something we said before, but the new piece is make sure you're going wide. I know Dagger said that before, but I want to emphasize it here because I always catch myself this way. I make sure I have those one or two that are meta-defining Datacrons, and it's not that it's an either-or, it's that once I feel like I got them, it's like, okay, I've got what I need from the last set, I've got these core elements of the new set to take into week one, and that part works, but then I'm always 2, 3, 4 Datacrons short. And it's not even that I need it to be a 6 or even a 9. I need at least something with a 3 on it, right? Like a 3 and maybe 4 or 5 for stats. But even that's not really hard if you make the effort for it. You don't even have to have all these be level 6, You can have your couple level 9s, get a whole bunch of level 5s if you like their stats, right? And then you can focus on developing them up in the second run of the conquest. But just don't let yourself be caught short. Don't get caught flat-footed that first week of threes. Okay. So, yeah, I've failed to do this in previous episodes, and I've been recommended by other patrons and viewers to make the effort to do the stump. I'm so terrible at self-promotion. But I just want to point out, this is a YouTube-exclusive show. All of our YouTube subscribers will see this on Fridays for normal release. Any of my patrons, however, get to see it, the immediate morning after we record. So in this case, it'll be Tuesday morning. You'll get that added advantage of this information before we're locked in for the next week. So let me just run the Patreon plug here. Check out patreon.com/Tassinix for any upwardly mobile GAC player. There is something there that would be of interest to you. But I have to advocate for at least the $10 or up tier. I mean, the $10 is really where the action's at for being able to support me and our community here. And also getting, you get access to all the Patreon benefits here with me, but you also get that bundled Patreon membership to OmegaBot, so you can pull detailed reports that are greater in 2 weeks in length. You can define added parameters, get the kind of detailed information that you're looking for, and really horn in on what your opponent's about. So can't say enough good about that part. What would mentioning the Patreon be without mentioning the patrons themselves that make all this possible? So shout out to, at VIP access level, gentlemen taking advantage of the aforementioned OmegaBot deal, Trevor Boy Gaming and Striker, thank you guys so much. At VIP access level, shout out and thanks to White Wolf, Sam Vimes, Jobin4527, Sweens14, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sir Boss, Lego Calrissian 2187, Deadpool Cal 28, Johnny B. Ottawa, Darth QP PMG, Ray's Malbus, and JJ's Productions Twitch. As always, our special thanks goes out to Yoda Force, one of my OG supporters. He's no longer playing the game, but we still remember him fondly. Thanks for everything, man. To Mrs. T, my darling wife, here it is on a Monday, and you're running around trying to figure out dinner, and I'm still recording a podcast here with a bunch of bums here. But yeah, thank you for tolerating me. Speaking of said bums, dear friends all, Dagger, TJ, and Sasha Isha, my co-hosts here on...
Admin's note, really quick admin's note. Also welcome to Quig, who is a recent Patreon subscriber.
Oh, that's right. I didn't update the slide yet. Sorry, Quigmaster. Quig. Yeah, sorry I didn't update you here, but fair point. Shout out to you. Thanks for joining, man. Dagger, TJ, Sasha, Isha, my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming. Thank you guys, as always, for making the time from your busy professional and personal lives to record this show. And an added shout out to Dagger for being an admin on my server, helping out a lot with community questions. So appreciate the added effort, sir. And of course, never to be forgotten, Nomad's Reaper. He'll pop into streams from time to time, drop thousands of biddies, dozens of subs, really goes ham when he has the time to tune in. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the generous support over the years. All right, guys. It's been a real fun episode here recording. And like I said, this will be available for our general audience on YouTube on Friday. Patrons get it on tomorrow morning, January 16th, just alongside the episode of Streaming Sasha. So that was a lot of fun. Again, guys, it's always a pleasure here being with you. And for everyone at home, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.